Have you ever felt, I don't know, completely out of control around certain foods? Like something else is pulling the strings? Well, today we're going to dive into the science of what some experts call the hostage brain. And we're going to uncover how the food we eat might actually be holding it captive.
So, let's just start with a bombshell from Dr. Robert Lustig, who's one of the top experts on sugar in the world. He says 73% of the items in the American grocery store are poison. Just let that sink in. 73%. That's almost 3/4 of everything on the shelves. It's an absolutely staggering number, and it really sets the stage for the problem we're about to unpack.
And that brings up a really personal question for all of us, right? When you find yourself reaching for that snack late at night, or you chug a sugary drink without even thinking, who's actually in charge in that moment? Is it you? Or is it a chemical chain reaction happening deep inside your brain that you don't even know about? Well, we're going to find out.
All right, so let's get right into our first big idea, this concept of the hostage brain. It's a really powerful way to think about what's happening when our own body chemistry starts working against us, creating a loop that can feel completely impossible to escape.
Okay, so here's the core idea. We all want control over our lives, right? But the constant stress of just trying to keep it all together, well, that triggers our brain's fear center, a little part called the amygdala. And to calm that fear down, our brain screams for a quick hit of pleasure, a dopamine rush, which sugar delivers perfectly. But this is a trap. It creates this vicious cycle: stress, craving, eating the sugar, and then, well, feeling even worse, which just starts the whole thing over again.
So, how is this trap actually built, neuron by neuron, inside our brains? It really all comes down to one powerful chemical: dopamine. And more importantly, the way modern foods have totally hijacked its natural job.
See, dopamine itself isn't the bad guy here. Not at all. It's absolutely essential for motivating us, for learning. It's the little chemical voice in our head that says, hey, pay attention, this is good, do it again. The problem is, when we bombard it day in and day out with these super intense, unnatural rewards from processed foods, our brain has to protect itself. It gets overwhelmed.
And this is the progression, the slippery slope from a simple treat to a full-blown addiction. It starts with liking. That first super sweet coffee drink tastes amazing, huge dopamine hit. Then pretty soon that turns into wanting. You start actively seeking out that feeling again. But eventually, your brain's chemistry literally changes. Your pleasure receptors get tired, they sort of go numb, which means you need more and more just to feel normal. Until one day, it's not a choice anymore. You need it.
And here's the crucial point. We're making a terrible trade-off without even realizing it. We are constantly chasing the short-term high of dopamine, the chemical of more, at the expense of serotonin, which is the chemical of contentment. Serotonin is that feeling of, this feels good, I'm satisfied, I'm okay, I don't need anything else. By jacking up our dopamine all the time, we're literally destroying our ability to feel genuinely content.
But this isn't just about cravings or gaining a few pounds. No, this dopamine doom loop creates a massive energy crisis deep inside our cells, and the consequences for our long-term brain health, well, they're devastating.
Think Alzheimer's is just a genetic roll of the dice, something you can't control? Think again. The science on this is becoming crystal clear. Only about 5% of the risk is purely genetic. That means a whopping 95% is tied to our environment, and a huge piece of that puzzle is the food we eat. Now, this is actually incredible news because it means that dementia is, for most people, a preventable disease.
To really get this, we need to zoom way in and meet the little heroes of our cellular story, the mitochondria. These are the tiny, tiny power plants packed inside pretty much every cell in your body, and they have one of the most important jobs imaginable: turning food into energy.
And the energy they make is a molecule called ATP. The easiest way to think about ATP is as the literal gasoline for your cells. It's the fuel. Without a steady supply of it, your cells just can't do their jobs. And your brain cells, they are incredibly hungry for this stuff. When they start running out of gas, they begin to sputter and break down.
But here's the thing. Our modern lifestyle is a full-on assault against these tiny energy factories. Ultra-processed foods, artificial sweeteners, not getting enough sleep, being stressed out all the time. All of these things damage our mitochondria. They create these nasty little byproducts called reactive oxygen species, or ROS. Think of ROS like toxic exhaust fumes that clog up your cellular engines and make them run poorly.
So this creates a very clear and honestly a very tragic pathway. Step 1. The processed junk we eat creates those toxic ROS fumes. Step 2. Those fumes damage our mitochondria. Step 3. The damaged mitochondria can't produce enough ATP energy. And Step 4. The brain cells run out of fuel and eventually they die. This isn't some big mystery, it's a direct biological chain reaction.
All of this brings us to a really fundamental and, frankly, dangerous misunderstanding about food that has dominated our thinking for the last 100 years. It's this idea that food is just simple fuel, and all we need to do is count the units.
So, let's ask the big question, the one that's at the heart of so many failed diets and so much confusion. Is a calorie just a calorie? Is the energy you get from a handful of almonds really the same as the energy from a can of soda? The answer is a loud, resounding no.
And the reason why is all about the difference between physics and biology. You see, in a lab, a calorie is just a unit of heat. Scientists literally burn food in a metal box and measure how much heat it gives off. But your body doesn't run on heat. Your mitochondria are sophisticated biological engines. They create chemical energy, ATP. They care about the quality of the fuel, not just how much raw heat it produces in a lab. And this forces us to completely redefine what food and poison actually mean. Biologically, a food is something that helps you grow or make energy. A poison is something that gets in the way of those processes. So if an ingredient, like huge doses of fructose, actively damages your mitochondria and stops them from making energy, then from a biological standpoint, it's a poison. Period.
Okay, so we've laid out the problem. It's a big one. Our brains are being held hostage, our cellular energy is under attack. But the good news, the really good news, is that we can absolutely fight back. So let's talk about some simple, practical ways to take back control starting today.
You don't need to be a nutritionist. Seriously. Just remember these 3 simple rules when you're at the grocery store. First, start thinking of a food label as a warning label. Real food doesn't need a giant list of ingredients you can't pronounce. Second, if any kind of sugar is in the top 3 ingredients, just call it what it is. It's dessert. And third, this one's a classic for a reason. Never, ever, ever go food shopping when you're hungry. Your dopamine-crazed brain will make all the wrong choices for you.
And instead of just obsessing over everything you have to avoid, let's flip it. Let's focus on what to add. A brain-protective diet is actually pretty simple. You want it to be low in sugar but high in fiber. Fiber is so important because it feeds the good bacteria in your gut. Throw in lots of healthy omega-3 fats to literally build new brain cells. And just do your best to avoid all those weird emulsifiers and additives and ultra-processed stuff.
And if it all feels like too much to remember, it really just comes down to this one powerful principle. If you take one thing away from all this, let it be these 9 words from Dr. Lustig. Protect the liver, feed the gut, support the brain. Before you eat something, just ask yourself, does this do those 3 things? If it does, you're on the right track.
Look, I know this can feel overwhelming, but freeing your brain isn't something that happens overnight. It happens one small choice at a time. So the final question I'll leave you with is this. What is one small, simple choice you can make right now, today, to start feeding your brain the right way and begin to take back control?